Hello and welcome. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can configure ISIS on OcNOS routers. The topology is very simple, and as you can see, it is an ISP with multiple areas. One of the areas, which is area 1, is considered a backbone area, but of course you should know that in ISIS, everything is a little bit different from what you have learned from OSPF. For example, areas are not real areas. Here what we have is domains, and we have domain IDs, and we just call them an area number. The areas do not have something like area border router. What acts as area border router is a router which is called L1, L2 router, and in this case, for example, this router for area 8, this one for area 7, this one, and here we have two of them, and this one. These are going to act as L1, L2 routers. You should know that when we want to have connection between different areas, the routers should be of type L2. As a matter of fact, the connection should be of type L2, because you can just say that I don't want to have all my interfaces as L2. Some of the interfaces could be as L2, some of them as L1. But anyway, between areas, you cannot have L1 connection. So this one should be an L2 interface, and this one should be an L2 interface. And every other interface which is going to be connected to a router in another area, that should be of type L2. Inside areas, of course, we don't have this restriction. We can have L2 or L1 or a combination of those. And the other thing is, by default, an interface or the routing protocol ISIS is configured as L1, L2. This means that you have two adjacencies at the same time, two versions of databases at the same time. That is because we are creating an adjacency on L1 and L2 at the same time. You can just remove one of them in case you need it. Now, there are lots of design stuff that is going to be explained for you, but I'm going to show you the basic connectivity right now. And for that, I'm going to start from this area 1. Let me just zoom in a little bit so that we can see this much better. So by zooming, you can see that in area 1, I have a switch in between. Of course, this is of type OcNOS. I have 3 routers, router 2, 3, and 4. These routers are going to act as L2 only routers. What I'm trying to do is to just make sure that all routers in my backbone area, which doesn't have to be, of course, just one area. We can have multiple areas, but they should be connected back to back, because if we don't have contiguous backbone, then there is going to be a problem here. But I have just decided to have only one area in here and put all my routers inside that. Now, the thing is, these routers are going to be configured as L2 only, but we can have L1, L2. And of course, design was you can configure every router in your whole network as L1 only, L2 only, or you can have a combination of these configurations. For the switch, of course, this is here just to make sure that the interfaces of these routers are going to be in the same network. This is going to ensure that one of them is going to be a designated intermediate system, or DIS. You should know that there is no backup designated intermediate system. There's no such thing as backup DR, for example, so the way that OSPF has it. There is just one, and in case it does go up, then the cache information is going to be used. So what we are going to do is just to make sure that these interfaces are configured as that. So let's start configuration. Before configuring ISIS, I'm going to show you the configuration of the switch so that you can see that all of them are in the same subnet. So for this, I'm going to log in using OcNOS as the default username and password. And if I just go to here and I'm going to say show run, and here you can see that if I just go down, I have Ethernet 1, which is in VLAN 10. I have Ethernet 3, which is in VLAN 10, and Ethernet 4, which is in VLAN 10. This means that all of them should be able to reach to each other. And of course, all of them are under bridge group 1. So this is the configuration of switch 1. Nothing fancy about that. So let's go to router 2. What I'm going to do is to say show IP protocol to see whether we have configured anything before. There is nothing. So I'm going to go to configuration mode. And the first thing that I'm going to do is to say router ISIS, and after that an instance type should be not an instance name or number or tag or whatever that you want to have. It should be configured. I'm going to say OcNOS, and that's going to be capital everything. So hit enter. Now there are few configurations that are necessary. The first one, which is mandatory, is the net value. Net value is going to be a combination of area number and the ID of the device itself. So going back to my configuration, you can see that I have decided this area to be area number 1. We call it backbone, but it is not like OSPF. You don't have to configure it as 0. You can configure it as any number that you want. So the restrictions are not so much. And the next thing that is important for you is going to be the level type that you have. You see, here we have IS type. IS type means that you want to have a configuration of level 1 only, level 2 only, or level 1 and level 2 at the same time. What I'm going to do is to use this and say that I am configuring this as level 2 only. So what I need to do is to first of all configure net value. For net value, I can go with any number. For example, I start from 49. 49 is something that we use it by default. It used to be something important in the past when ISIS was invented. They said that, for example, there are a bunch of numbers here. 49 was considered the private address space. But nowadays, nobody cares because ISIS is always for IGP use. So what you can do is you can just put any number that you want here by default. And you should know that each one of these digits are hexadecimal digits, which means that each one of them is 4 bits long. So the first byte is going to be this address family ID, and the second one is going to be the area number. Let's say, for example, that is going to be 0001 or whatever number that you want to give it to. And when you check, of course, this is going to tell you that 490001 is the area number, but that's okay. The actual area ID is going to be this one. After that, there is going to be the ID. For the ID, you can again go with 12 digits, which is going to be 6 bytes. And this 12 digit could consist of anything. You can just put any number that you want. You can even go and make it a little bit more readable, for example, by typing your loopback interface here or whatever that you want to have. And that's just it. I just go with the number that I have assigned to the router, that is 2. So I would say, for example, that is 0000, 0000, and 0002. But like I said, you can go for this by something like this, for example, 192, 168, let's say, for example, 100, 125. This is, for example, one of the IP addresses that I have just put it here just to make sure that this is going to look unique for me. But anyway, this should be unique, and for that I prefer to go with device ID itself. So that's it, and the final thing is going to be my node selector, which is going to be 00 all the time. You can see that this part is going to be shared between all the devices inside the area, but this part is going to be unique for each device itself. So I hit enter. The next thing, like I said, I just want to make sure that my devices here are going to be level 2 only. So I'm going to say IS type, and after that there are 3 options. Level 2 only is going to be the last one, so I'm going to select it and paste it here and hit enter. So far everything is configured, but I need to commit the configuration so that this is going to be effective. But before that, you should know that you should put your interfaces under ISIS first. And for that, what I need to do is to go under each one of the interfaces and configure it as an ISIS interface. The only thing that you need to make sure is configured under ISIS itself is going to be this one, the passive interface, in case you want to have one. I'm going to have one. For example, let's say the loopback 0 is going to be my passive interface. And of course, I should say no loopback 0 because there is just one thing here which is called loopback. So I'm going to just type loopback. That's it. Okay, let's go out, and I'm going to say exit, or I can just type the name of the interfaces. to show IP interface brief says that I have these interfaces. My loopback, of course, has a secondary IP address, which is going to be used for us. This one, the primary IP address, cannot be changed, and I'm not going to touch it, but I have assigned a secondary IP address to that. So I'm going to say interface loopback. I'm going to say IP router ISIS and the name of the tag which we have assigned to ISIS protocol. I hit enter. The next thing, I'm going to enable the ISIS on all these interfaces, so from EAT1 to EAT4. So I would say interface range EAT1 to 4. And you can see that interface range, of course, is not accepted in here. So what I'm going to do is to say interface EAT1, and then I'm going to use the same command here, EAT2, the same thing, EAT3, the same thing, EAT4, the same thing. So all of them, I have put them under ISIS process. So I can just say commit and make sure that the configuration is done. Also, I'm going to save my configuration to startup config. So let's see some of the verification commands that we have here. First of all, I'm going to say show ISIS interfaces. Hit enter. It gives me a bunch of information about interfaces. Let's see, for example, one of them. This one says that the routing protocol is OcNOS. Network type is broadcast. In this case, of course, some of the interfaces should be broadcast, but some of them should not be. I'm going to change the network type, which is going to be configured under the interface itself. The circuit type by default is level 1 and 2, but of course I have configured the routing protocol as L2 only, which means that level 1 adjacency is not going to be created for me. And if I just go down, there are some more information. For example, the LSPMTU, which is 1492, and also the next hello message, which is going to be sent in this time. Okay, let's go and do the same thing on here. And for now, if I just say show ISIS neighbor, show CLNS neighbor, of course, show CLNS neighbor, you can see that there is nothing for now, and I don't have any information from any of the neighbors here because I have not configured them. So I'm going to do this quite fast on here. So what I'm going to say is router ISIS OcNOS. The net value is going to be 49.000.1.0.0.0.0.0.0.0.0.0.0.0.0. 0.0.0.0.0.0.3.0.0. This is because this is router 3. Passive interface is going to be loopback. I'm going to have IS type level 2 only. Hit enter. And then I'm going to say do show IP interface brief. For now, I'm going to say interface loopback IP router ISIS OcNOS and interface EAT1, interface EAT2, and interface EAT4, and also interface EAT6. Okay, so I'm going to say commit, and then I'm going to, of course, save the configuration, but this phase was not necessary for now. If I say show CLNS neighbor, now I have a neighbor, and you can see that the neighbor ID is specified here. This is the neighbor ID, which is 0.0.0.0.0.0.0.0.2. The type of the adjacency is L2 based on what we just configured. The protocol, of course, is ID, and this BPDU advertisement, which we have received it here. Okay, so the next thing, and also if I just say do show ISIS interface, hit enter, it just gives us the information about the interface, and also the number of active level 2 adjacencies for this, for example, is 0. If I just go down this one is 1. This is the interface which we have the adjacency on that, and the rest of course show 0 because we have not configured any neighbor adjacencies on them. And the final one, and after that we are going to check something here. I'm going to say configure terminal router ISIS OcNOS, again net value 49 0001 0000 0000 0004 00, passive interface loopback, and also IS type is going to be level 2 only, and do show IP interface brief. I'm going to configure all interfaces under that, so I would say interface loopback, IP router ISIS OcNOS, interface EAT1, interface EAT2, interface EAT3, and that's it. Commit the configuration and save the configuration, of course. To show CLNS net neighbor says that now I have 2 adjacencies, and do show ISIS. Let me just end so that we can have better view of everything. So if I say show ISIS interfaces, and after that hit enter, it just gives me the type of the network, the number of adjacencies, in this case for example 0, and the type of circuit, and I can just see every information that I need in here. The final verification is going to be show ISIS database, which is going to show the LSPs from different devices, like 4, 3, 3, 2, and in the end show of course a route, show IP route actually, and hit enter, and you can see that there are a bunch of routes that we have received through ISIS. All of them have been marked by L2. This means that we have L2 adjacencies through the routers that we have received these routes from. Okay, so this part is done. I hope this has been informative for you, and see you in the next video.